International student is always been challenged. You have a visa called F1 visa. It has many restrictions. You cannot work outside. Here, it's a cumulative education. Many subjects actually now we're doing open book, open note exam. In computer science, all this linear algebra calculus is used actually in making the algorithm. International student भएन भने त रिसर्च नै अगाडि बढ्दैन यहाँ पढेर अनि फेरि जब गरेर सपोर्ट गर्नलाई धेरै गाह्रो हुन्छ. I wanted to know how engine works. Regardless of the mass, they will all accelerate downward with the same rate. So that's why they fall with the constant. Even our eyeball has a lens called converging lens. I don't believe that kind of God. We didn't evolve from monkeys. We had the common ancestors. Thanks to that asteroid,
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise,
you and I wouldn't be here,
yeah,
right?
we wouldn't be here. There might be actually life possible, in other planets as well. This galaxy is like neurons. We know that the solar system happened about 4 or 5 billion years ago. Based on the shape of the wing, so the air has to travel faster on the top of the wing compared to the bottom. Newton's laws are one way to understand gravity, but it doesn't provide all the answers. Newton's laws has a serious problem. In my opinion, physics is fun. I like to test Einstein's theory. Science is the cumulative, contribution from many, many great minds.
Welcome to Safar with Amir, Professor. Thank you very much for coming in our invitation.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Sure. How's life going on as a professor, as you're a doctor in RIT? How's the interaction with the students and everything?
Yeah, it's going well. Now the classes have just finished. Just summer break भयो अब हैन.
Right.
अब अलि 3 महिना जति अब फ्री नै हुन्छ. आफ्नो प्रोजेक्टहरु गर्नलाई हैन फ्री नै हुन्छ.
How is the life of a doctor that is a professor and in a summer break especially?
Yeah, in summer break especially, you don't have to teach regular class. I'm still doing one online class. You still need to teach one online class, but most of the time you get to do what you want.
Right.
You get plenty of free time during summertime.
Sure.
Until August. Yeah.
So your life is pretty fascinating. As we were talking backstage, like जो चाहिँ काठमाडौँदेखि you came here, you did your master's, you did a PhD in here as you're a doctor on physics especially, and right now, educating a lot of students in one of the most reputed college in West New York. Can you brief a little bit how your life went?
The life is just normal, just like normal people, It's not fascinating life.
It doesn't look like normal though.
No, I don't think like that. It's just a normal life, just like regular profession,
Yeah, how did you make it happen?
Yeah, I was always interested in physical science, especially physics. So in 2003, I came to US for my higher study, for a PhD in a place called University of Cincinnati. Mm-hmm. It's in Ohio. It's also called Tri-State. It's the boundary between Kentucky, Ohio, and Indiana. It's called Tri-State. Mm. So I spent about 5 or 6 years. I finished my degree, finished my PhD, and then I found this job here in Rochester, New York.
One of the reputed colleges, RIT.
Fortunately, yeah. Because I finished my PhD in 2009 or 10, and back then, actually, 2009 or 10 was a great recession, as you know, the financial recession. But fortunately, I got the job.
Right.
And since then, here, yeah, I spent almost 14, 15 years here.
Great. You also had a business going on the side.
Yeah. So at around 2011, I started a food chain business called Subway Restaurants. Mm-hmm. So I used to manage three Subway restaurants.
Okay.
Mainly my wife worked at the ground level. My wife actually handled everything, but I used to just handle all paperwork and everything. But I had a two life in parallel.
Right. Yeah.
One, my academic life. I was doing my academic life as a profession, and my and extra time, spare time, I was doing all the paperwork for my business.
That's great. So, which was harder? Like one life you're putting yourself into a force, and one life educating about force and learning about force?
Academia life, as a teacher, as a professor teaching physics, I already knew, I was already familiar with that.
Right.
So that was not very challenging. But the journey to the restaurant business, especially the food chain, the big chain business, was kind of challenging because I didn't know enough about running the business. So in the beginning, the first couple of years was really challenging for running the business.
It's kind of a weird question, but business was harder than science.
Yeah, for me, that's what I felt. Because science, I always had a passion with science and physics.
Right.
I already knew many things about, but running business, I was kind of new, especially the franchise chain business. They had, many restrictions. It's not like running your own restaurant brand. They because you have to be in compliance with their rules, and it was kind of challenging.
Yeah, it was kind of challenging for sure. Let's talk about international students. As you were an international student at some point of your life, and now you deal with a lot of international students. Like, how's their life look like? Like, what are some challenges you have faced? I mean, back then it's probably not as it was before, but what are some great challenges that is international student could face?
Yeah, for international students, it's always been challenge, especially if you're, not sound with the financial situation. You may face many challenges because as a student, you have a visa called F1 visa, right? And it has many restrictions. You cannot work outside, so you cannot earn extra money outside. There are many restrictions. And on the top of that, you will have, many academic challenges.
Right. So when we're talking about the academic challenges, let's talk about the differentiation of the academics or educational system in Nepal and in America. How would you look at it?
Yeah, for myself, actually, the main difference between the study in Nepal and United States is here it's a cumulative education. It's not just exam. So you do project work, you do weekly homework, and then you also do exam, and all adds together, and then you uh, most probably you pass. If you are going to the class doing regular homework, project, and lab work, you most probably you will pass, and you learn more actually
Right.
when you do that. So that's but in Nepal back then, I don't know right now, but it was mainly exam that the exam was the main assessment. That's the difference I found.
Student from Nepal or India, whoever are coming in here, it seems like their life is at ease over here than in the colleges back there.
I believe because they are already familiar with the extreme hard work, and prepping for the exam, all hard work. They are already familiar, and then when they come here actually, and they might find it's relatively easy here.
Right. Yeah, it is relatively easy here, but is there anything you would, if you get that power, would you change anything in the educational system that is pretty current around United States?
I'll tell a student to do more hard work, here because many people are not familiar with the extreme hardship, extreme hard work, compared to the people from around the world. That's the thing I would like to change.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you a pretty weird question. I don't know if you've heard this yet or not. We were taught algebra. I mean, young as the we get to learn algebra. A plus b the whole square is equal to a square plus 2ab plus b square. Do we ever use this anywhere, or why is this kind of things in the academics?
Yeah, you use it actually in physics and engineering. You use that algebraic formulas, equations, calculus. You apply those actually when you solve the problem. And
Okay, because I've seen so many memes and videos saying that यो a square plus 2ab plus b square कहाँ चाहिँ युज हुन्छ र हामीलाई पढाएको लाइक लाइफमा कहिले पनि युज हुँदैन यो कुरा एन्ड maybe they are not into the higher level of education where it's actually been used, but can you tell me a little bit about this?
here, yeah, many student actually when I teach, the application of those equation in actually solving the physics problem. Many students from US, don't know that formula. A plus B whole square is, that formula. Many people are not familiar. Instead of A plus B whole square is A square plus 2AB plus B square, they try to multiply A plus B times A plus B, and then they distribute, and that's how they learn it.
Right, that
But
is
they don't know that equation.
right,
They don't try to memorize.
right.
So that's the other thing actually that is different here is you don't have to memorize because we provide actually all the equations, all the formula sheet. So they just need to apply those formulas to solve the actual problem. So you don't need to actually memorize. And in many subject actually now we're doing open book, open note exam.
Right, yeah. Open book, open note exam, but still there are people failing.
One of the reason actually we do open book open note exam is because instead of memorizing the stuff, you use those equations and your knowledge and try to solve the actual problem. That
Right.
should be the main target.
So, any of these vast formulas from algebra, that's gonna be used in your educational system, or outside a school or anywhere. Is it gonna be used? That's what you're saying.
Yeah, they are still going to be used. All the formulas, the algebraic, the linear algebra. So, for example, so in AI is machine learning, right? So in computer science, all this linear algebra calculus is used actually in making the algorithm, right? So so it's still being used actually, but very few people will know that, right? So all the linear algebra, the equations, the calculus are still being used in making the machine learning model. So all these AI model. So what is that AI model? So
Right.
so on the back at the back end, all these equations are playing for
Oh,
you.
okay.
We just press the button, right?
Right,
But on the back end, actually, all these equations, all these metrics, right? Everything is working actually in the back end.
Right. I get to know a little bit too. I can answer some of these questions to the people that ask the same question. Thank you very much for that. So, your question, ji, from let's make this topic based on Nepali student. Nepali स्टुडेन्टहरू चाहिँ अमेरिकामा आउँदै गर्दा हाउ सुड दे प्रिपेयर देयर सेल्फ, कसरी चाहिँ प्रिपेयर गर्ने आफूलाई, या आइएल्स एन्ड अल द्याट उनीहरूले गर्ने त भयो, बट अमेरिकाको लागि चाहिँ कसरी प्रिपेयर गर्ने, एकाडेमिक्सको लागि र कलेजको लागि हाउ सुड दे प्रिपेयर देयर सेल्फ?
मोस्ट इम्पोर्टेन्ट पार्ट चाहिँ मेरो विचारमा फाइनेन्सियल सिचुएसन प्रिपेयर गर्नुपर्छ जस्तो लाग्छ मलाई चाहिँ. एकाडेमिक्स त ह्यान्डल गर्न सक्छ होइन स्टुडेन्टहरू अलरेडी फेमिलियर विथ द हार्ड वर्क, बट इफ यर फाइनेन्स इज नट रेडी स्ट्रगल हुनसक्छ होइन. अनि अब मोस्टली चाहिँ ब्याचलर्स बिएस भन्छ यहाँ होइन, ब्याचलर्स 20-30% स्कलरसिपमा आयो हुन्छ, तर even 20-30% scholarship, you have to pay 70%, right? More than 50%, and that's going to be a big headache actually. And because bachelor's 4-5 वर्षको हुन्छ होइन. अनि मैले देखेको चाहिँ फाइनेन्सियल सिचुएसन नै हो मेरो विचारमा चाहिँ सबभन्दा धेरै. मास्टर्स प्लस पिएचडी चाहिँ फाइनेन्सियली चाहिँ is not going to be a problem because they get full scholarship.
Oh, wow.
That's what I got actually because graduate study in US is considered research based. You're doing research most of. So you get on the top of is 100% scholarship, especially in science. I'm talking about science and engineering. On the top of 100% scholarship, people usually get research assistantship and teaching assistantship, and then you get stipend, teaching stipend, something like that.
So when you said for PhD and masters and PhDs, उनीहरूको फुल्ली स्कलर्ड हुन्छ भन्ने कुरा द एजुकेसनल सिस्टम वर एड्स नेपालतिर चलिरहेको कि फुल स्कलर इन युएस वाट इज द प्रोक्सिमिटी अफ गेटिङ फुल्ड अर स्क्याम्ड
You can contact the university actually.
ओके
You can directly contact university. Now these days it's very easy to contact and to figure out, or science, especially basic science, physics, math, and many engineering programs. Graduate studies are free
oh wow
because they get a huge actually research grant. The professor get huge research grant, and they need to have a student
okay
so they can get the student involved in their research. रिसर्च नभइकन त उनीहरूलाई पनि फन्ड आउँदैन होइन. अनि यहाँ चाहिँ अब युएसको स्टुडेन्टहरू चाहिँ यहाँको लोकल भन्नु खोजेँ मैले, तिनीहरू चाहिँ धेरै जस्तो चाहिँ बिएस गर्छ, हार्डली मास्टर्स गर्छ, अनि जब गर्छ होइन. अनि चाहिँ हायर डक्टरेट गर्न चाहिँ गर्दैन क्या तिनीहरू चाहिँ धेरै जस्तो. अनि त्यही भएर तिनीहरूलाई इन्टरनेसनल स्टुडेन्ट चाहिँ चाहिन्छ कि उहाँहरूलाई चाहिँ.
राइट राइट
युनिभर्सिटीहरूलाई इन्टरनेसनल स्टुडेन्ट भएन भने त रिसर्च नै अगाडि बढ्दैन यहाँ चाहिँ बेसिक साइन्स एन्ड इन्जिनियरिङमा. अब तपाईँ हरेक युनिभर्सिटीमा गएर हेर्ने हो भने चाहिँ त्यो इन्टरनेसनल स्टुडेन्टहरू नै धेरै मेजोरिटी हुन्छ यो ग्रेजुएट स्टडीहरूमा चाहिँ.
ओके डक्टर आई वान्टेड टु एस्क यु दिस अहिलेको टाइममा चाहिँ मोस्ट लाइकली नेपालमा जो इन्टरनेसनल स्टुडेन्टहरू आइराख्नु भएको छ धेरैजना उहाँहरूको प्यारेन्ट्सहरूलाई लिएर चाहिँ आई थिङ्क एजुकेसन इज निडेड लिटल बिट. किनभने उहाँहरूको सोच कस्तो छ भने ओके बच्चालाई अमेरिका पठाउँ स्टुडेन्ट भिजामा, उहाँ गएर त आफै कमाएर पढिहाल्छ नि होइन, यता हामीलाई पनि हेल्प गर्छ, टेकाउनु चाहिँ अमेरिका टेकाउनु चाहिँ इम्पोर्टेन्ट हो भन्ने खालको छ. यसमा वुड यु वान्टेड टु एजुकेट लिटल बिट प्लिज फर द प्यारेन्ट्स यो बारेमा, अनि स्टुडेन्टहरूलाई पनि, किनभने दे हेभ देयर एकाडेमिक्स, दे हेभ देयर होमवर्क्स एन्ड एभ्रिथिङ. I don't think they would be able to do all this in a chain, So, you want to say something to the parents and the student themselves?
Yeah, that's a good question. When students come here, especially right after +2, 10 +2 in Nepal, and they come here for bachelor's, parents need to know that they might have to support financially for the next 4-5 years. किनभने बच्चाहरू यहाँ आएर होइन अब पढेर अनि फेरि जब गरेर सपोर्ट गर्नलाई धेरै गाह्रो हुन्छ होइन. स्पेसली ब्याचलरमा लाइक आई सेड बिफोर दे डोन्ट गेट फुल स्कलरसिप, सो दे हेभ टु गेट रेडी फर फाइनेन्सियली. अब एभरेजमा 40-50 लाख लाग्छ होइन नेपाली रुपिज पर इयर, एन्ड इट रन्स फर 4-5 years at least. So my suggestion for parents is they might have to support their kids for 4-5 years. So
right. So do you think when the parents are doing that, they're actually stressing those students?
Yeah, I do think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
हाम्रो नेपालीको अब मेन्टालिटी के हुन्छ, अब अमेरिका गयो, अस्ट्रेलिया गयो, आफै कमाउँछ, अनि इभन पैसा कमाएर फिर्ता दिन्छ. इट्स नट लाइक द्याट, बिकज वेन दे केम हियर एक्चुली दे स्पेन्ड मोस्ट अफ द टाइम इन स्टडी एन्ड दे डोन्ट ह्याभ इनफ टाइम टु सपोर्ट फाइनेन्सियली. सो त्यस्तो प्रेसर चाहिँ दिनु हुँदैन बच्चाहरूलाई चाहिँ मेरो विचारमा चाहिँ.
There are only so much they could do, and if they are financially responsible for their parents plus their school and everything, I don't want to say it, but it could bring some bad incident in their life or accidents.
Yeah. So many international students actually go through many mental challenges and frustration, and so I have seen that many situations here.
Right. So when you encounter people like that, what would you tell them, or how would you help them out, like emotionally or mentally?
So every school has their student association, so they can go and as a group, they can help and mentally, support, and they have many clubs that they can get involved. Okay. So for example, at RIT we have a small Nepalese student association. So we meet time to time, and then we can support mentally and not financial help because that.
Right. Everybody needs some financial help.
So, but we can support in many ways.
Okay, great. So I'm gonna take you back to a classroom now. What is one of the weirdest thing you have seen in a student when they are coming up with the question of physics and that actually blow your mind at the same time you're laughing at it?
Yeah, in many cases, because at RIT in our physics department, we teach two kinds of physics course actually. One is just algebra based. Algebra based courses. You don't need to have much math background. And the other course is calculus based, which is taken by usually the regular engineers. But the other one, the algebra based one, because I found sometimes found very weird because many people actually don't even know simple algebra.
Right. And they are in the class.
Yeah, they are in the class, and then we had to spend a little bit, extra time in, mathematics actually instead of physics. We had to spend extra math beforehand actually to
Oh,
support
wow.
them.
That happened a lot.
Not a lot, but every semester we see that. Yeah.
What is the challenges to the? I mean, it itself is a challenge, but the challenge multiplies to those students to pass the class, right? Does that
Yeah,
happen?
yeah. But we have a support system at RIT. So once we see that pattern, we work with them, and we work with them very closely, and then we help them out. We provide more help sessions, every week, a couple of times a week. We provide more help session, and we have seen progress actually.
Oh, great. So this question is for yourself. When did you find physics so fascinating that you wanted to spend all your life in physics?
I was always fascinated when I was from my very young age. I wanted to know how engine works, how the automobile engine works.
Right.
And I was trying to find that out because back then actually there was no animation, there was no computer animation to understand how things work. And so I couldn't find that answer,
Right.
until I finished my ISc, ISc in science. Uh, and so I was always fascinated by the how things work. That is one of the reason actually.
Okay. So talking about physics, it's kind of a funny question or whatever, but it is of course educational question. If you were to explain a gravity to a person that's about to do skydiving who have no knowledge about gravity, and you just have a minute, how would you explain them?
Don't forget the parachute, first of all. Right, because so gravity always sucks, but when you are doing parachute actually, you're not in free fall actually. So because of air drag, at some point actually you will get a constant speed. It's called terminal speed, and eventually, and then parachutes open, and then you slow down your body.
Right. There are a few questions of physics of my own that as I knew that I was gonna talk with you, I didn't. It was unsolved, So one thing is, I always thought if हामीले चाहिँ दुईटा बल ड्रप गर्ने हो भने one is 5 kg and one is 2 kg, I always thought 5 kg landed first भनेर. I find that both of the balls drop at the same time.
Yeah.
How is this?
Yeah, because we can explain that with Newton's laws, because for 5 kg ball, the force of gravity will be more obviously, right? Because
Okay.
force is mass times gravity, and mass is bigger, gravity is constant. So, but even if the force of gravity is stronger for 5 kilogram ball, the force per mass, which is the acceleration, will be constant for any object. So regardless of the mass, they will all accelerate downward with the same rate. So that's why they fall with the constant.
That is really fascinating. And some of these things, like you see a meme video and things like that. I was talking to you earlier. एउटा line draw गरेर चाहिँ glassको अगाडि राख्दा you'll see it on the side you draw. But when you pour the water on the top, it will flip.
Yeah. And the reason is because it's a lens effect. Because if you have a converging lens, that all these cameras, our cell phone cameras, even our eyeball has a lens called converging lens,
Okay.
convex lens. and because of converging lanes, light bends. It's called refraction of light. Light bends, and because of bending of light, it flips actually. And same thing happened with the mirror image.
Right, right. Okay, I want to know, talking about all this, you have seen millions of this kind of example throughout your life so far. What is one of the things that fascinate you really, like you even think that how is this possible about physics? We can talk about black hole or we can talk about anything that really blow your mind.
Yeah, there are many such fascinating stuff. First of all, the universe itself is fascinating,
Right.
right? Because how did all this come? How did this matter come? So it's itself is fascinating.
Recently, I was looking at the news that nebula that's a few hundred light year away from Earth. Scientists named them a hand of a god, and there was other pictures joined. I'm not trying to make this episode religious, but I just want to. I'm telling you whatever I saw. Uh, you know, Lord Krishna from Hinduism holding a chakra, and there is a picture of nebula on a side. It kind of look alike. Do you think there is God?
It depends on actually what kind of god you are talking about. So if you are talking about the god that that is beyond laws of nature, beyond the laws of physics, I don't believe that kind of god.
Okay.
But I believe in laws of nature.
Okay.
This because we still don't know how life evolved. Life came into existence. Because
Right. I mean, science says that we evolved from monkeys or gorillas, right? Monkeys, pretty much human. But if human evolved from monkeys, why are there monkeys still?
we didn't evolve from monkeys. We had the common ancestors. We
Okay.
had common ancestors, and then they branches out within millions of years.
Right. I mean, in science, there is a lot of question like when there was asteroid fall in Mexico, whole world was collapsed, and they says dinosaur were wiped out Earth. But then, how come the existence of human came back again?
Yeah, it took millions of years. 70, 100, within 100 millions of years. Then life. So our actually, thanks to that asteroid. Otherwise, the
You
big
and I wouldn't be here,
yeah, I
right?
wouldn't be here because the mouse-like species, mouse-like species, then mammals then took control of, become dominant features on Earth. But because back then, before that, the dinosaurs were the dominant species on Earth.
Right.
And then after that huge incident, and then mammals becomes more dominant because they were more favorable for surviving
Right.
surviving that atmosphere.
Right. I wanted to ask you, like, as you say, you don't believe there is a God beyond science and everything, right? But there are also few examples that science grabbed from some of the religion, like biggest religion like Hinduism, Muslim, or Christianity, and come up with a theory which became right later on.
Yeah, I don't know much about the religion, but this I would say the God described in religion, Christian, Hinduism, Muslim, Islam, all are, I would say that they are personal God, because science can track the history of the universe back to about 14 billion years ago.
Right.
And all these the religions, all these main religions are actually made by humans actually. But in science, I would say I don't know.
Right.
In science we can even track the beginning of universe back to
Right.
14 billion years ago, with a big bang, big bang theory.
Right. I mean, I might look a little anti-science right here. I'm not, but there are also mysteries that unsolved by science. Those are Bermuda Triangle, or if we talk about the pyramid in Gaza, those are also the things science have not come up with any like exact theory. And do you believe in aliens?
Yeah, because this universe is very big. Universe is very very big, and we might not be the only species, only species on this universe. So because universe, since it is so very old, 14 billion years ago,
Right.
and we might not be the only species, because there are many now scientists are trying to find Earth-like planets.
Mirror planets.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then if they have water and they have all the organic chemistry, yeah, there might be actually life possible, in other planets as well.
Okay, I'm gonna keep a possibility aside and I'm gonna ask you, what do you think? Do you think alien ever visited our Earth?
That might be possible, but still we don't know. We don't have, the exact evidence for that. But I would say, based on how much time it took to evolve this universe, billions of years, because our human beings, our life as we know, might be very primitive for advanced civilization. There might be other advanced civilization, and they might think actually we are just a very simple, species, and they might not just care.
Right. I have a theory of my own, just like, is it possible, just science based भएर हेर्ने हो भने इफ हामीले युनिभर्सको टपदेखि ठुलै माइक्रोस्कोप राखेर हेर्ने भने पनि यु एन्ड आई वुड probably seems like a microorganism in our blood, right? Where we need microscope to see. So, and as our body look like a different universe, like if we take a look at our brain anatomy, and if we're taking a look at universe kind of look alike and things like that, so there are millions and billions of organisms that are living within us. Science, यो whole universe चाहिँ हामी हो, अनि whatever the microorganisms that are living inside us are a human like you and I. Is there any possibility that could, like, because microorganisms को कुरा गर्ने हो भने maybe there are billions of year is our day or whatever, it could be, because एउटा सानो ब्याक्टेरियालाई खुट्टादेखि टाउकोसम्म आइपुग्न कति टाइम लाग्ला, and what do you think? It's just it's just out of my mind. Like,
The you're based on the size of the universe, each galaxy is like neurons. Each galaxy, there are hundreds of billions of galaxies in the universe, in the visible universe, as we know. And it's kind of similar to our brain cells. Our brain cells are basically neurons, right? And each galaxies, you can think like a neuron.
Right.
So I don't exactly know.
I think that's why people says manifestation took place, because you are commanding a universe. The whole universe is on the top of your head, like all the neurons you're talking about. Like those are in your head, and that's why you should manifest. You should tell your brain to do things. Maybe, do you manifest at all?
No, I don't know much about that.
You don't know much about that. Okay. So talking about brain and universe, right? It evolves over time, your brain and universe too, from kids to getting an older man. And recently I figured that however हामीलाई जसरी सानो उमेरमा solar system पढाइएको थियो, त्यसरी त्यस्तो छैन solar system. Can you tell a little bit about solar system?
Yeah, solar system is about 4 or 5 billion years ago. It forms from the disk,
Big
dust.
Bang?
Not Big Bang. Big Bang happened long before
time.
that. So we know that the solar system happened about 4 or 5 billion years ago, and it forms from the disk of dust particles. And first, the sun is formed because of the intense gravitational pressure,
Okay.
nuclear fusion, and nuclear fusion actually the sun and all the stars are. It's a fusion reactor, It's a nuclear fusion reactor. It's a hydrogen is constantly being changed to helium, and then they produce, enormous energy, and then because of gravity, then all the dust particles settle into planet, and over millions of years, then it forms a solar system. It forms from the disk actually. That's why all these planets and sun are lies on the plane actually.
So I wanted to understand a little bit of physics on flying planes. I don't have a question. I wanted to hear from you.
So how airplanes fly? So I regularly teach that in my one of my class
Oh,
actually.
great. All right.
So you have to understand fluid. It has to do with the fluid dynamics. It's called Bernoulli's principle. So Bernoulli's principle simply says moving fluid has less pressure. So airplane, the whole shape of the airplane, especially the wing design, wing has airfoil design. So when an airplane flies with some certain speed, it creates a pressure difference on the top and bottom, between the top and bottom of the wing, and based on the shape of the wing, so the air has to travel faster on the top of the wing compared to the bottom,
Oh, okay.
and we know that faster fluid has less pressure, faster air molecules has less pressure. It creates a pressure difference, and that creates the lift in upward direction, and
Right.
that's how airplane can fly. But in order to fly airplane, you need to first maintain certain speed, and that's the reason, because at certain speed it creates a pressure difference, and that the airplane gets the lift force.
That's like a master class, guys. All right. If you're, that's a master class about how plane flies. That's great. So I wanted to ask you one thing. This is not based on science or anything, on your perception. Do you think Area 51 is keeping a secret of aliens?
It might be, yeah, because it might be top government program. We don't know it actually. So my answer is I don't know.
Right. Okay. All right. It's just a hypothetical question, or maybe it's a serious question, but based on your thought, what do you think about the Bermuda Triangle?
I guess back a couple of years ago, they already tried to explain actually.
Oh, they did.
Yeah, they already tried to explain, but still some secrets. But I would recommend actually find that article.
Okay.
There's a separate article
Do you believe there is a black hole nearby?
on planet.
Yeah.
No, because if
It
Earth
would
has
collapse,
black
right?
hole,
The whole
yeah,
world
everything
would go
will
in
be
there.
sucked into the black hole.
Right. What is black hole? How it created?
So we call black hole is a very massive object. So everything is, including light, is get attracted towards the black hole. So nothing can escape from the black hole. That's why we call it black hole, because nothing can escape, including light. Light cannot escape from from that, and it formed at the end of the star. Because star is also like a life. They evolve, and after billions of years, the star died, and but many stars actually goes into massive collapse, and the gravitational field is so high, nothing can escape. Even light cannot escape. So we call it black hole. It's formed by the supermassive mass compression.
Okay. If you were to meet one guy going back in time, would you meet Einstein or Nikola Tesla?
So my answer would be I would like to meet both of them, but
Yeah, if you were to choose one.
so I would like to meet definitely Albert Einstein. Yeah.
Albert Einstein.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you like his theory better than other scientists? Because every scientist come up with little different theories, and
Einstein, especially the theory of relativity, is considered the science within science. He came up with entirely new ideas. How, especially the gravities, even the gravity is very difficult to understand, and he came up with a different idea how gravity works. So because Newton's laws are one way to understand gravity, but it doesn't provide all the answers.
Right.
And then the Albert Einstein came up with different idea with space
The
and
question-
time concept.
yeah, the question I asked you about two balls, that theory was brought by Albert Einstein as well, right?
No, that we can explain with Newton's
Oh, we
law.
can?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Newton's law is enough to explain that.
What is different? What Einstein come up differently comparison to Newton?
Newton's laws works with action at distance principle. Action at distance means the force of gravity act immediately, instantaneously.
Okay.
So for example, in our solar system, we are millions of miles away from sun, right? And so for example, just imagine sun explodes or sun disappear, right? Based on the Newton's laws, we'll feel that gravitational disturbance, when if suppose the sun disappears suddenly, right? So based on Newton's laws, we should feel that, we should feel that disturbance in the gravitational field immediately, instantaneously. But that is not true, So because even light takes about 8 minutes to reach here from sun,
Right.
right?
Right.
So nothing can travel faster than the speed of light through space. So and that is the main drawback. Nothing can communicate. Even the gravitational field cannot travel faster than the speed of light. So, for example, now based on Einstein's theory of gravity, general theory of relativity. So even if the sun disappears for any reason, to feel that it might take it will take 8 minutes.
8 minutes for us to feel that sun is no more there, right?
Feel that gravitational shock, and then Earth will then go to some different, leave the orbit.
Okay.
That's the main drawback, and it's a serious problem. Newton's laws has a serious problem,
Right.
and that was solved by Einstein theory.
Sure. I mean, as we're going deep, I feel like we should actually make one episode just based on science, because today we talk about various things, and we are at the very end of our episode as well. There are a few questions that gonna be rapid, which mean that you're gonna have to instantly answer it.
Yeah, that would be difficult.
So let's catch that, and then we'll conclude the program for today.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, if you could, if you were to teleport yourself back to your 21-year-old self, what would be a sentence of advice you would give to yourself?
Yeah, I wish actually I could. I would spend more time with my family and with my parents.
That would be a piece of advice you
Yeah,
would give.
yeah.
But I mean, if you were to do that, you'd probably not be a doctor today.
Yeah, but spending time with family and parents are more important than,
Been anything.
yeah.
Well, that's great. Okay. Other question is, what is one of the most mind-blowing thing a student ever asks you in the class?
There are many actually that.
Few, yeah, you can give few of those examples if you're.
One of the question the students frequently asked, what is life? Even if it is not completely physics question,
Right.
the student usually asks me in private and in the classroom, asking about the life itself. How biology becomes life.
Would you mind answering their questions in our podcast today?
So the answer is I can't because that is actually it's a combination of biology, chemistry, physics, all question, and scientists are trying to figure out what is life. How chemistry becomes biology. So we know, scientists know biology is the product of chemistry, organic chemistry, but still scientists are struggling to answer how organic chemistry evolved to biology. It's a $1 million question. It's a
Right.
very difficult problem.
Right. Do you have any answer maybe made it to yourself?
It's a multidisciplinary problem. So if you want to find how chemistry becomes evolved into biology, you can't simply answer with the help of chemistry or biology. You have to understand physics and math, and you have to combine all these knowledge to answer that question. It's a very
Okay.
fundamental question.
Okay. So the other question I have is, a student that has a fear of physics, how do you make that fun to them?
Unfortunately, most of the students just come to the class already in mind that physics is difficult.
Uh-huh.
But physics is not difficult if you just if you have a passion, and if you know just fundamental math. Physics is fun.
Right.
Because it tells you how things work.
Is there any a good example you come up with to tell them that, hey, whatever you are thinking is your hypothetical mind, reality is this, that physics is fun, like that kind of thing?
Yeah, just follow the classroom, and just read the book frequently.
Mm-hmm.
Then it won't be that difficult.
You'll get used to it. Okay. Next question is, in a flood of information, what makes a good teacher unforgettable to the students?
In my opinion, teacher needs to be more empathic, and teacher should connect more with the student, get involved with, student success,
Right.
you know,
Be a leader of a student kind of thing.
not leader of student because, but teachers needs to get more involved with student success.
Okay. Other one is, if your classroom is a lab, what would be the experiment you'd like to do with your students? As a professor, as a doctor, you must have some of the theories in your mind and you might be wondering and you wanted to explore that. You want to name one of those?
Yeah, I like to test Einstein's theory.
You like to test Einstein's theory.
It's already been tested many times, Einstein theory, always proven right. But personally, yeah, if that would be great actually, if you can test Einstein's theory in lab, you know.
My last question is not actually a question, it's information I wanted to get about Stephen Hawking's. What would you say about Stephen Hawking's? What inspired you the most? It's gonna be a little longer talk to you, and we're gonna close our episode for today with the answer of yours.
About
Stephen
Stephen
Hawking's.
Hawking's. Yeah. Stephen Hawking, despite his
Special abilities.
yeah, his special ability, actually, he was a great cosmologist and astrophysicist and came up with many different ideas. He was a great physicist, and he had a great contribution in the astrophysics.
Okay, what is one thing that students should know about Stephen Hawking's?
So, despite his condition, he kept, he kept his passion with the astrophysics. So, I would like to say that just keep your passion with the physics.
Would you
just
say
like Stephen
if
Hawking?
Sure. Would you say if Stephen Hawking would have lived 50 or more, science would have been much easier than it is now?
I don't want to say that because science is the contribution from great, minds, from many, many people, not just one person. So, for example, in the beginning, you asked me about choosing Einstein versus Nikola Tesla. And Nikola Tesla is itself, he's a big contributor in electromagnetism, because without Nikola Tesla, we wouldn't have light itself,
Right,
because he
right.
invented the AC current, the transformer, without those, we wouldn't have electricity,
Right.
So every person, every scientist have some contribution.
Sure.
And science is the cumulative, contribution from many, many great minds.
Now you mentioned that the question I asked you earlier, if you were to choose between Albert Einstein and Stephen Hawking, which one would you choose, or which one would you meet?
Yeah, it's a hypothetical question, but I would still choose
Einstein.
Albert Einstein. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it was a great chat with you, Doctor. Thank you very much for being in here in my request. I really appreciate it. This is not the end of the episode. I wanted to make, one science-based episode with you, if you will. And thank you very much for coming in Safar with Samir.
Yeah. Thanks for inviting me. Yeah.
Sure.